Hey everybody, Chris Clark here. Welcome to Chase for the Championship. Man, we got a ton of things going on this week to get you caught up on everything going on in the ACC. The league released its ticket policy. You can get in to see games if you know somebody. We'll explain here. FSU starting to get right at just the right time. Courtney Mims checking in with the Seminoles. Hear from the Blue Devils on losing a key player for the stretch run and what Georgia Tech's Josh Pastner hates about the game of basketball. All that and so much more. And we got some good news, the postponements and bad news here with some things here. Now, let me just back that up. Good news, bad news. The games, they're being put off. That's the bad news. But they're still planning on holding the conference basketball tournament for both the men and women in Greensboro. That's the good news. Okay, the bad news, you're going to have to watch it on TV. And like I said, unless you really know somebody or have a kid on the team. Based on the current North Carolina state regulations, no public tickets are going to be available for the games. Admission to each game of the event is going to be limited to family and guests of team personnel. They will still have safety guidelines in place. Face coverings are mandatory for every person in the facility. Must be worn at all times, except while, eating or drinking in your seat there, actively doing so. Should local and state guidelines change, the league would take those under consideration, maybe loosen them up and possibly get some other folks in there. But as of right now, you got to know somebody to get in there. And they say to be the man, you have to beat the man. And by that rationale, Florida State Seminoles are the man, or the men. You get me with that one there. With that win over Virginia is what I'm trying to get at. And one of the teams to watch for in the upcoming ACC tournament. For the latest on the Noles, we go to WMBB's Courtney Mims, who's keeping an eye on the team. Courtney?
The Florida State Seminoles may be ranked number 16 right now, but that should probably change after Monday night's game. The Noles blew out the number 7 Virginia Cavaliers 81-60. And with the win, Florida State has now won 24 straight home games against ACC competition. MJ Walker led the Noles in this one with 17 points and was almost perfect from behind the arc, making 5 out of his 6 attempts. But all the Seminoles shot well on the night and finished the game shooting 50% from the field. They were also stellar defensively, forcing 13 turnovers from Virginia, and they out-rebounded them by 6 as well. It was a pretty impressive performance from Florida State, and head coach Leonard Hamilton thought so as well. But he feels like this team can even be better, saying after the game, they have a lot of untapped potential.
We have to find a way to come out and play with this level of focus every night. Now, we had a 5-game stretch where I thought we did that. We had a couple game stretch where I thought that we took a step back. Now I'm hoping now our challenge is to see how close we can come to maintaining this and beyond. I think we're capable of playing better than we played tonight. I think this team has potential that we haven't tapped into yet.
Florida State was supposed to play Virginia Tech this Saturday, but that game has now been postponed. Instead, the Seminoles will play Pittsburgh that afternoon. The game is a makeup for the January matchup they had to postpone with the Panthers due to COVID-19. Reporting on Florida State, I'm Courtney Mims.
Thank you, Courtney. ACC Player of the Week, Fort Lauderdale native Raquan Gray dropped a career-high 24 points and pulled in 12 rebounds in the Seminoles' overtime win over Wake Forest last Saturday. He spurred that comeback late to tie the game and then scored the Seminoles' first 4 buckets in OT to lead them to victory. Along with the career highs in points and rebounds, he was also 10 of 10 from the free throw line. He is just the 5th player in school history to finish a game perfect from the line with at least 10 attempts. And we stay with the same team for the Freshman of the Week, and Scotty Barnes. It's the 2nd time he's won the award. Barnes scored 13 points and pulled down 4 rebounds, totaled 4 assists, 2 steals, and made the biggest basket of the game for the Noles, I'll say, versus Wake Forest. A reverse layup with less than a second remaining in the second half to send the contest into overtime. After scoring just 2 first-half points, the West Palm Beach, Florida native scored 11 after halftime, including 5 of FSU's 12 points in the decisive overtime period, as the Seminoles, like I said, won their 23rd consecutive ACC home game over Wake. Up next for Florida State, like Natalie said, it was supposed to be that Virginia Tech game, but COVID got in the way, so instead it is a date with the Pittsburgh Panthers, and the Panthers are going to be ready. Last night, they took the NC State Wolfpack to the limit, but came up just short, falling 74-73. Down 3 with 23 seconds remaining. Justin Champagne converted 2 free throws to cut the gap to 1 after a traveling violation was called on the inbounds play. Pitt had a chance to take the lead, but subsequent shots were missed by Audis Toney and Champagne as time ran out. Justin, clear candidate for the ACC Player of the Year, but the team's outlook is not great at the moment with 6 losses in their last 7 games. What can Pitt do in the ACC tournament, though? Well, that is anybody's guess at this point.
You know, we have to be stronger. 14 turnovers is still too many. I mean, it's better than the last game, but it's still too many. And it's timely. You know, we have the ball with, you know, two and a half minutes left, and we call the play, and we break it off and drive and turn the basketball over. You know what I mean? Like when we're scoring, we're getting pretty good stuff when we moved the ball and turned it, you know, and things like that. Those are the ones. You know, we're up 2. And we don't get back in transition defense and we give up a 3-point play. Like, those are the plays that we have to be better with. We have to be better with if you want to win in February.
And, you know, usually schools wait until the season is over to make a head coaching change, but the folks at Boston College decided they could not wait and pull the trigger on letting head coach Jim Christian go this past Monday. Scott Spinelli took over on an interim basis for the remainder of the season, starting with Wednesday's game against Georgia Tech. Eagles lost to Syracuse 75-67 on Saturday. It fall to 3-13 on the season under Christian. Now, the move doesn't really surprise anyone. Rumors were kind of flying around that Christian was potentially on the outs. It's just the timing. Again, based on the information available on Coach's Database, checking BC's history going back some 44 years, tells us not one men's college basketball coach has been fired mid-season during that time. Patrick Kraft, the Boston College athletics director, released a statement saying, in part, "I know that Jim gave everything that he had into leading our program and mentoring our student athletes. Ultimately, the program is just not headed in the right direction, and thought I'd, hesitate to make a mid-season coaching change in any sport. Now's the right time for us to look forward. We wish Jim and his family all the best in their future endeavors and thank them for their service to Boston College." Scott Spinelli, like I said, taking over as interim head coach, going to serve for the remainder of the season. By the numbers, Christian had a bit of a rough go of it at the Heights. Overall and in conference play, he had one winning record in that 2017-18 year when his team made the NIT. Many, like I said, were caught by surprise when he actually returned to the Heights after last season when his team went just 13-19. Now, the next time we're scheduled to see the Eagles in action won't be until Saturday the 27th when they play host to Notre Dame. Fighting Irish at Conti Forum in Chestnut Hill. Tip-off for that one is at 2 p.m. All right, everybody, it's trivia time. Tricky question ahead, but that's what makes this fun, right? Okay, pay attention. Now, who are the only 2 current ACC head coaches with multiple ACC tournament crowns and AP Coach of the Year awards? The answer just might surprise you. No Googling. Come on now. Sit around. Squeeze that gray matter between your ears. Use that thing up there. It's, use good for something. We'll have the answer for you coming up in a bit. All right, still the top-ranked team in the league, Virginia. They had a bit of a wake-up call when they fell, and fell hard to Florida State on Monday in a very un-Virginia-like performance, if you will. To see if this was merely a speed bump or a wall the Cavaliers ran into, we turn things over to WRIC's Natalie Calabit. Natalie?
Number 7 Virginia suffered its second conference loss of the season on Monday. The Cavaliers gave up 45 points in the first half, trailed by 20 at halftime, and fell 81-60 at Florida State.
It's the most points that UVA has allowed to FSU under Tony Bennett. Bennett says his team just didn't make the grade.
We didn't do the things that were in our control at a high enough level. Like we always talk about, you may not win, but you got to eliminate losing and be an A in transition defense and defensive rebounding position. And we weren't that. We were at times a B, and then at times we were a D.
Virginia used a run early in the second half to rally within 7 points, but Florida State answered with a 17-0 run of its own.
Every time we made a breakdown, they'd bang a 3 or they'd get down the floor. Barnes is for real with how quickly he can get to the lane, but we didn't help ourselves, and that was the frustrating thing.
Bennett is looking at the positives moving forward.
It refocuses you in ways I think that that you needed. Again, we've been playing some good basketball, for sure we have.
UVA will look to regroup at Duke on Saturday. Then it's back to Charlottesville for a pair of home games against NC State and Miami. Covering Virginia, I'm Natalie Calabit.
Like she said, Cavs next be in action Saturday at Cameron Indoor. They tangle with the Duke Blue Devils. Tip-off 8 p.m. in that one. Surprising news out of Duke this week. Freshman and projected lottery pick Jalen Johnson opting out of the rest of the season and will declare for the NBA draft. Johnson, a number 13 prospect in the ESPN 100 last season, has had an up-and-down season with the Blue Devils. He opened his career with 19 points, 19 rebounds, and 5 assists against Coppin State, but then suffered a foot injury a couple of weeks later and missed 3 games. After returning to the starting lineup, Johnson came off the bench for the past 3. played a combined 23 minutes the past 2 games, scoring just 3 points in 8 minutes against NC State this past weekend. In a statement, he said, "I appreciate everything about my time at Duke. Coach Mike Krzyzewski, my teammates, and the program have been nothing but supportive throughout this season, especially during the rehab of my foot injury. My family, coach, and I have made the decision that I should not play the remainder of this season so I can be 100% healthy in preparation for the NBA draft. This was not easy, but we feel it is best for my future." Johnson said, "I have nothing but love for the Brotherhood. I thank my teammates and everyone associated with the program. Duke will always have a special place in my heart and will always be a part of me." Here's what his teammates had to say.
That's my main guy. So he pretty much recruited me to come here, but we're going to stay in contact with each other. I know he made the best decision for himself. He's getting a lot of backlash for it, but, we're supporting him 100% with this, and we're just looking to go forward. I know he's going to support us as well. So
I know he's getting a lot of crap on social media, but he's part of us, and he's never going to leave us like that. And I feel like we're just in exchange communication with them, because he's a great talent, great player. He did what's best for him, and we're all proud of him. We all support him, and he has a bright future ahead. So, I texted him that night, and we just talked a little bit and just thanked each other for helping each other out during the year. But for sure, we're going to miss him a lot.
Duke head coach Mike Krzyzewski signed a statement as well, saying, "While we are encouraged by what we are seeing medically for Jalen's future, we believe this decision is in his best interest. We are ultimately careful with every one of our players and will continue to support Jalen as he progresses toward his goal of playing professional basketball." Meanwhile, after that 3-game losing skid, the team, they kind of put things back together, putting back-to-back wins. But more than that, Duke looked like Duke again. I mean, they were playing with swagger, helping on defense, and they did win both of those last couple games by double digits. One thing about hitting bottom, which it looks like they did with a 3-game slide, is you get a nice bounce back to help you get to the top. And I'm not saying that, they're a long way from the top. That's not what I mean. They're not the top of the league, but it seems, at least for now, the Blue Devils are headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I think they're just all getting a little bit more comfortable with one another. And, after all, those really tough, close losses for these kids to, have this great attitude and work ethic is says something about them. And, again, we just got to keep it going, and hopefully games can be played. It's a bad day for our conference, huh?
I'll say it's a bad day. Because of COVID and the need to make up games that have been postponed, Georgia Tech started a streak a little while back where they would play 4 games in 7 days. In a word, brutal comes to mind. Now, conventional thinking says that they would be competitive at first and then just wear down as the games went on. But much to the surprise of fans, but not to the guys on the Tech team, they were in it every step of the way, starting with Virginia until the very end, then fell off. But 2 days later, they lose a heartbreaker to Clemson on the road by just a bucket. And for their 3rd game in 5 days, they take down Pittsburgh by 6. Definitely not what anybody thought. Unfortunately, though, they had their game with Boston College postponed due to COVID when arguably, they're playing their best ball. Some said Coach Pastner was crazy for playing this many games in a row, but I want you to listen to what Coach actually said about scheduling.
I'm hoping we get to 20 league games at some point, that we can get the full schedule in. So, listen, if it was up to me, I would like, and I've told this to, our compliance people I wish we could play and not have a limit of, 31 games. I wish we could play 40 games, 45 games a year. More games, the better. To me, in my mindset, more opportunities. And that's just my viewpoint of life. Everything's about opportunity.
Probably best you talk to that compliance officer there, Coach. And coaches more so than most people. They got pet peeves. Let's face it, they're quirky. The late, great John Thompson here wore a towel over his shoulder as a way to feel his parents' presence at games, as his mother used to wear a towel when working in the kitchen. And, some coaches wear them around their necks recently to honor Coach Thompson. Jerry Tarkanian there, he had a towel that he'd chew on, but that was to ward off dry mouth when he was just starting out in coaching as a young man in the hot Southern California gyms. Some guys, they grow to detest things about the games and the sport. And recently, Tech head coach Josh Pastner let out his frustration during a game. I'll let him tell the story.
Let me just tell you this. Yesterday, Tony hit a shot off the banker to cut it. We were guarded well. And last year we lost at the buzzer to Arkansas at home off a banker shot. And I turned to my wife up in the crowd and I screamed at her, I hate the backboard. I literally just hate the backboard. It was unbelievable. I was so frustrated. I literally screamed at my wife in the top of the stand. I think, and she heard me.
With nobody in the stands, I'm sure she did. Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets on the road for their next game this Saturday. They take on the Miami Hurricanes in the PITTSBURGH Center in Coral Gables, Florida. Tip-off of that game is at noon. Speaking of Miami, down there in Coral Gables, if it weren't for bad luck, man, they wouldn't have any luck at all. I mean, they have a great team. And I mean a great team if they were all able to get healthy and on the court at the same time. Listen to this. Earlier in the week, they had 10 guys. It's 8 scholarship players and 2 walk-ons come into practice. Okay, not bad. 2 squads, 5-on-5. But by the time they were finished stretching and just warming up, they didn't have 3 guys left to practice. Which kind of begs the question, how intense are those warm-ups down there, seriously? No, all kidding aside, though. When it was all said and done, they didn't have Chris Likes, whose ankle started to bother him. Isaiah Wong's hamstring started to bother him. Harlan Beverly started to have back issues. You kind of see what I'm going here. Down to just 5 scholarship players and 2 walk-ons. Coach Larranaga just sent them all home. And during the games, I mean, it's not much better. You got a short bench. You're trying to do what you can. Here's Coach.
We had 4 players basically play the whole game, 38 minutes or more. All right. And some of those guys, like an Isaiah Wong, he's not even 100%. So we need time to rest and recover. Hopefully Chris Likes his ankle will feel better this week after treatment and some physical therapy. And maybe we'll have our 8 scholarship players that we still have. Maybe we'll have them available this weekend against Georgia Tech. But it's a day-to-day thing. The one thing I would say, and this has been something I'm very, very proud of, we have not had a single case of COVID, no positive tests since we started testing July the 20th.
I'd say that give that up. Come on. That's definitely right there. You need a clap on that one, Coach. Good job for that one. And winners of 4 of their last 5 games, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish seem to be rounding into shape at just the right time for conference tournament play, which will, I mean, it's going to be here before you know it. For the latest on the Irish, we're going to head west to the man in the know, Dave Griffiths. Dave.
We told you a few weeks back Notre Dame had a stretch coming against teams below 500 in ACC play that could turn its season around. The Fighting Irish took advantage. With 4 wins in their last 5, 6 of their last 8, Notre Dame has risen up to the middle of the pack in the league. The Irish typically use the strategy, well, we will outscore you, but last time out showed they can claw their way to a win as well, beating Miami 71-61.
I'm really glad that we, even though it wasn't pretty, we figured out a way to win like a hard game. And we've come a long way with our mental toughness.
Things are great when, everyone's knocking shots down and we're winning by 20, but great teams find, ways to win even when they're struggling offensively. And I think we did that, and it was a big step for us because every game counts at this point in the season.
It was, really good for us to have to dig in and do a lot of tough stuff, rebound the ball, dig out 50-50 balls. So I think, it helps us a lot going forward.
After this week's postponement against Clemson, Notre Dame will be back to playing in the top half of the ACC standings, next facing Syracuse on Saturday and Louisville on Tuesday. Covering the Irish, I'm Dave Griffiths.
Thank you, Dave. Like you said, Irish on the road for the next game, taking on the Qs in the Dome. Tip time for that one, 2 p.m. For the latest on Syracuse and how the Orange are dealing with COVID and the postponement of their game against Louisville last night, turn things over to Steve Infante for the latest. Steve.
Well, when Syracuse had those games canceled back in late December and early January, there was no panic at the time. We all figured that either the games would be made up or at the very least, there would be plenty of more opportunities to pick up quality wins. But now, neither one of those things is really the case. The Orange is running out of time to score a quad 1 victory after last night's game with Louisville was called off. The Cardinals had yet another positive COVID test result pop up within their program. So that leaves just 2 quad 1 opportunities on the current schedule at Duke and at Georgia Tech. Both games are next week, although the Orange will likely add at least one more game the first week of March leading up to the ACC tournament. No matter how you look at it, though, yesterday's postponement was another bad break for the Orange. As assistant coach Jerry McNamara told me this morning, it's disappointing, but the coaches and players just need to keep focusing on controlling what they can control.
This happened going into our road game at Clemson, where we were supposed to play Louisville, and you take all that adrenaline away and all of a sudden it's deflating. So I think right now the most important thing is using these next 48 hours of build going into Notre Dame, of making sure we ramp them back up and get their energy and adrenaline back to full pregame prep. But it can throw you off rhythm.
It's the second time in 2 weeks that SU and Louisville have had to call things off on game day. Next up for the Orange is a visit from Notre Dame. The Irish had their game with Clemson postponed last night as well. Both of these teams are on modest 2-game winning streaks. It'll be a 2 p.m. tip Saturday inside the Dome. Covering Syracuse, I'm Stephen Fonte.
Great stuff, Steve. Thank you as always. All right, so about that trivia question from earlier, did you find the answer in here? Not Google. That's cheating. Come on now. Here's the question one last time. Who are the only 2 current ACC head coaches with multiple ACC tournament crowns and AP Coach of the Year awards? All right. The answer is UNC's Roy Williams and Virginia's Tony Bennett. Yeah, how many of y'all got that? Put your hands down, you liars. You put Coach K down immediately. I know you did. I did too. I thought he had. Believe it or not, they are the only 2 active coaches in men's Division I hoops to win the award more than once. Both have won it at 2 different schools as well. Check this. Williams won it once at Kansas, then later at North Carolina. Bennett took the award with Washington State, and of course his current team up there in Virginia. Great question. Thank you, Casley, for that one. Nice. And while other ACC teams are playing conference opponents, UNC is playing Northeastern. But as WNCN's Alyssa Ray explains, it was interesting circumstances that got the Huskies on the schedule. Alyssa?
Chris, of course, North Carolina is happy about the win last night, but it's more than that. They're happy to get a game in and happy to get their young guys more experience during such an unusual season.
It started with a tweet. When UNC's game against Virginia Tech this week was postponed, the Heels needed an opponent.
When we knew we were not going to have Virginia Tech, we reached out first to those people who were on our schedule originally, most of them in the state that we had to cancel early. Then we had discussions with 2 other schools, and that didn't work out. And so Clint put it out on tweet or twit, whatever it was, and we got some responses there.
Northeastern stepped up to the plate. The Tar Heels won 82-62, and the goal of this game was accomplished. Get these young guys more experience in game situations and get another W on the resume.
Games getting canceled left and right, so just getting this game was good for us to get our flow going, and just practicing is tough on our body. So just getting games and playing a different opponent than ourselves is good for us.
I think this game really helped us just getting the flow and getting our chemistry better and getting us in a good rhythm, showing us stuff we got to work on defense and offense. So I think it's going to be really good for us down the road, and I'm just excited to play the next one.
The Heels are now 7-0 on their home court, and if they have another game postponed, they aren't above going back to social media.
Yes, if we have to go on Twitter again, I'm going to try to find another home game.
The Tar Heels are now 13-7 overall, 7-5 in conference play, and looking to get games in and build their resume for a shot at the NCAA tournament. Covering North Carolina, I'm Alyssa Ray.
Thank you, Alyssa. Next time we're going to see the Heels take the court be against a conference opponent when they play host to the Louisville Cardinals this Saturday. Tip-off at the Dean Dome is set for 6 p.m. And how about those Cardinals, huh? Had to call off their game last night with the Qs to see what they've been cooking up in the KFC Yum Center. We turn things over to Randall Parmley. Randall.
Wednesday was supposed to be the night. It was supposed to be when Louisville returned from a 16-day break to finally play a game. But COVID hit the Louisville program once again, just hours before their scheduled game against Syracuse. Another positive test within the team forced yet another cancellation. Louisville hasn't played a game since beating Georgia Tech way back on February the 1st. Head coach Chris Mack says he hopes his team doesn't have too much rust whenever they're finally able to resume play. In fact, he says the Cardinals' medical team has been crucial in helping the players still be able to get some time on the court despite being in quarantine.
Our medical team did a really good job of allowing guys that were, quarantined to still get in the gym. We obviously had to have heavy protocols in place for guys to be able to get on the floor on their own, be really the only person in the gym at the time. But that wasn't something that they had the opportunity to do the first time around. So when we were off prior to Wisconsin, however many days that was, 8 or 9, like our guys were not in a gym for 8 or 9 days. And so that was a little bit of a change this time around. Hopefully that pays off for our guys.
Louisville is scheduled, key word here, scheduled to travel to North Carolina this weekend. Covering the Louisville Cardinals, I'm Randall Parmley.
Here's knocking on wood for that schedule there, Randall. Hope to see him there. And between injuries and COVID-19, it's been a tough season for NC State. Heading into their game last night at Pitt, the Pack lost another player to injury. Veteran guard Thomas Allen was out due to a bad ankle. But as CBS 17's Todd Gibson reports, things seem to have a way of working themselves out whenever the Wolfpack tangles with the Panthers.
Death, taxes, and an NC State win over Pitt. It's a given. Last night, the Wolfpack knocked off the Panthers 74-73 for their 11th straight win and 18th victory in the past 20 meetings between the two schools, as NC State snaps a 2-game losing skid.
This win was extremely important for us because both teams, we kind of had the same record, and we both coming off a 2-game losing streak. So one of us had to come out with the win. And like our coaches said before the game started, it was just a matter of who wanted it the most, and we had to do whatever it took to win the game. So this game, we definitely put a big emphasis on personnel and making sure we don't beat ourselves down the stretch.
It's tough to win on the road, even without fans. I'm sure if you guys do the research, it's still tough to do a win on the road, and this is a great road win for us. This is a good team. They've beaten a lot of good teams on this floor, and for us to come in and get out here with a win, I'm happy with that.
The biggest thing is tomorrow's a new day, and enjoy this win tonight. Any win in this conference is good. Enjoy it tonight, but when we come into the gym tomorrow, it's a new day. Keep the same energy that we had going into the gym tomorrow, but don't just keep living through this win. We got to move on and correct our mistakes and keep getting better.
Good news for the Wolfpack. They'll face Pitt again a week from Sunday. But next up for NC State is a Saturday trip to Winston-Salem for a matchup with struggling Wake Forest. Following the Wolfpack, I'm Todd Gibson.
I think we may have a new segment there for Gibby After Dark. What do you think? I think we'll have to hook that up. Up next for the Wolfpack, like you said, road test, Demon Deacons in the Lawrence Joel Veterans Memorial Coliseum. Time for this weekend's tilt, 2 p.m. And how about them Demon Deacons, man? How are they getting along as of late? Coach got things hopping up there in Winston-Salem. See how good really is? We'll go to our person on the scene.
Wake Forest loss to Duke last night didn't come without a little drama. It wasn't even halftime when Steve Forbes got in a little bit of a tussle with the refs over a no call on a Davian Williamson layup where he found contact, landed on the floor. After 2 quick technical fouls, Forbes was ejected and made his way to the locker room.
I've always had a great relationship with the officials. I got respect for them and the job they have to do, but I'm going to fight for my players. And I got a passion for them and our university and our team, and that's not going to change today, and it's not going to change tomorrow.
Like he fights for us, like that just shows like the passion and how much like he loves us and he's gonna do anything for us. So how we respond is by playing for him, like play as hard as you possibly can for him and play for each other.
You're kind of conflicted a little bit, but most part, I just wanted to be there to coach the game and coach the team. And
something's going wrong. He feels like the refs aren't making good calls, that he's going to talk about it because he loves us and has that much fight for us and wants us to win. So we got to come back and respond with that same energy that he brought for us.
Some may call it a mistake, some may call it passion, and more accurately, it was a little bit of a mix of both. But one thing for sure is, while the record may not be what Wake wants it to be at this point in the season, it isn't going to stop Coach Forbes from fighting for his team. Covering the Demon Deacons, I'm Clara Goodwin.
Thank you, Claire. I don't know. That's the kind of guy I went over my shoulder. I like kind of coach like that. Next game for Wake, like we said, Saturday, going to be against the Wolfpack, but the game after that will be against Clemson. Now, the Tigers were supposed to play against Pitt this coming Sunday, but COVID pushed that one back. For more on the Tigers and what they're into, let's turn things over to WSBA's Pete Yannity to get all this straightened out. Pete.
Well, a most interesting week for the Clemson Tigers. For the second time this season, they have to pause due to a COVID issue. The Tigers' Wednesday game against Notre Dame was postponed as part of that. The first time they were sat down, they missed games against North Carolina and Syracuse on the road. If nothing else, Clemson went into this time's stoppage of play for their season with the good memory of the recent victory against Georgia Tech on Friday night. A 2-point thriller that was nip and tuck down the stretch, a hard-fought battle against the Yellow Jackets, and Nick Honor in the closing seconds. Well, his final points of the night, as he scored a dozen, coming at just the right time. A three-pointer from way outside that banked home. Honor leading the Tigers to a thrilling win.
You was trying to make the right play, and like I said, I knew we didn't have any timeouts, so as soon as I came off the screen, it was probably one of the cleanest looks I got all night. So once I seen him back up, I know we probably could have two, but I just felt like I was in range, so I let it go.
Honor's three was part of a night in which the Tigers went 9 of 18 beyond the arc as a team, and the 74-72 victory was Clemson's 13th of the year, putting them at 7-5 in the ACC as they further solidify their NCAA tournament resume. Covering the Clemson Tigers, I'm Pete Ganity.
Thank you, Pete. Appreciate it. And some teams just can't seem to catch a break. The Hokies, they start to get that squad coming together, and then COVID. Before the latest on the guys from Blacksburg, we go to the best-dressed man in the mix here on Chase for the Championship. Of course, talking about WFXR's Jermaine Farrell. Jermaine.
The 18th ranked Virginia Tech men's basketball team will have to wait a little bit longer to get back on the court to play a game. Virginia Tech's game at Florida State on Saturday is being postponed due to the Hokies being under COVID-19 protocol after a positive case of COVID-19 was discovered within the program last Tuesday. Virginia Tech head coach Mike Young saying that the positive test didn't come from a player, but someone in the inner circle of the program as part of what is being called the Tier 1 group. Tuesday's scheduled game in North Carolina is being postponed. Now, due to contact tracing, only 6 players are eligible to practice.
I am sick to my stomach. Here we are in mid-February, and I've got a good basketball team. I'm having the time of my life coaching this team. To have an interruption, disruption, whatever it is concerning.
Now, the last time Virginia Tech played a game was on February 6th when they won in overtime at Miami. Covering the Virginia Tech Hokies, I'm Jermaine Farrell.
Well, we're coming down to the wire, and the ACC tournament is just around the corner. Big dance is, definitely in sight. So to get our facts straight when it comes to placing wagers, let's bring on Jason Logan at Covers.com. And Jason, this week opened with a huge matchup between Virginia and Florida State, with the Seminoles boasting a blowout win over the Cavaliers. How's that game shaking up the ACC futures odds?
Yeah, we talked about these odds last week, the odds to win the ACC tournament. And we mentioned at the time that Virginia was the favorite to win the conference tournament at plus 250, and FSU was right behind them at plus 350. But after Monday's showing from the Noles, and I got to admit, I was on the wrong side of that one big time. The ACC tourney futures now have Florida State as a plus 300 front runner, and then the Cavs are right behind them at plus 320. So the fact that FSU hung 81 points on Tony Bennett's defense, that's pretty impressive. And as is the fact that they shot 50% from the floor. They only turned the ball over 5 times in that game too. And that's kind of been Virginia's weakness here, is when they can't slow down an opponent, they just don't have the firepower to play catch up or play at that pace. Now there's plenty of time here for FSU to slip up. If we look at their schedule as it sits right now, they have 4 of their final 5 games on the road, which is going to be a tough slate to roll through. And you look at Virginia, on the other hand, they have 4 games left, 2 at home, 2 on the road. But those 2 trips, that's to Duke and Louisville here. So a lot can happen between now and the end of the regular season.
Yeah, and looking at the big dance, how many ACC schools are projected to make the cut of 68 teams, and which programs are on the bubble heading into the home stretch of the regular season?
Sure. So heading into the weekend, we kind of have a consensus 6 ACC schools making it into the big dance, according to those prominent bracketologists or bracketeers or whatever they want to call themselves. But that's what we're looking at, about 6. Virginia is estimated to earn about a number 3 seed, but that could flip, say, if FSU wins the ACC tournament. The Noles currently pegged around a potential number 4 seed. And then we see Clemson and Virginia Tech, and those guys are as high as number 5s and as low as number 6s and 7s. And that's followed by Louisville, which is looking to be pegged in around a number 8. then things get a little bubbly after those guys. So right now, North Carolina is the 6th and final ACC school getting a golden ticket to the NCAA tournament. The Tar Heels really need to finish strong and likely make some waves in the conference tournament too, to kind of to punch that ticket. Roughing up Northeastern isn't going to get the job done. So UNC has upcoming dates against Louisville this weekend and then Florida State. So and then a big important matchup with Syracuse, and that's the other team that we find on the bubble. The Orange are very, very bubbly at this point right now, kind of outside the picture looking in. Syracuse likely going to have to win out in its final 4 games of the season and probably pick up a notable upset in the ACC tournament as well too, to get that an at-large nod to the dance.
Yeah, we've got some interesting games this weekend, including Virginia at Duke, Louisville visiting UNC. As a bettor, which is the more interesting game to have action on?
Yeah, we mentioned the importance of that Louisville and North Carolina game, but I am intrigued by the Virginia-Duke matchup right here. So the Blue Devils, barring a miracle in the ACC tournament, and probably you having to win that tournament outright, they're not going to go to the big dance for the first time since 1996. It just won't seem like March unless Coach K is on the sidelines. But they can throw a wrench in the plan of some of these ACC foes and build on that for next season. So Saturday's home game versus Virginia is kind of Duke's Super Bowl. Of course, they have UNC at the end of the year, but this matchup with the conference's top team, this can be a big building block for the future of this program and a lot of these players. Duke's coming off 2 straight road wins. They looked really, really strong in those efforts. Great all-around play from everyone that saw the floor. Maybe even playing their best basketball of the season right now. And now they get the Cavs playing in their second road game and coming off that loss against Florida State. The Blue Devils, they jumped out to very strong starts in those last 2 games, and that's kind of what you need to do against this UVA team. You got to put them on their heels. You can't let them dictate the pace and kind of stick the game in sand like they love to do. Some interesting betting notes here, too. This will also be the first time the Duke Blue Devils have been home underdogs since March 5th, 2016. When they met North Carolina, they lost that game 76-72 as 2.5-point home underdogs in the season finale. And if we go back to 2003, Duke has been a home underdog only 5 times, and they've covered just once in those games. However, the underdog has been the hot bet when it comes to these ACC foes, going 22-8-1 in the last 31 matchups between Virginia and Duke. So I'm anxious to see how many points the Dukies are getting at home here for this Saturday night game.
He is Jason Logan of Covers.com, keeping us informed. Thanks, Jason. I got to make some phone calls, man. Virginia still ahead in the standings here, but the race for the top 4 spots is heating up. Here's how the ACC stands right now. As I said, Virginia's still number 1 for another week. They're sitting there at 11-2, and they're coming off that big loss to Florida State, who sits in 2nd. Virginia Tech and Louisville round out the top 4 for a 3rd consecutive week. That hasn't changed much. A bit of a shuffle between 5th and 8th place. Clemson and UNC are currently tied for 5th. Syracuse is 7th, and Duke is up to 8th in the standings, believe it or not. Yellow Jackets are 9th, Notre Dame right behind them at number 10, Pitt 11th, and NC State remains in 12th place. Wake Forest is now 13th, Miami's still 14th, and Boston College is still in last place at 1-9, but new coach, new regime, hopefully a little bit of momentum at the end of this year. Who knows? The Eagles could make a nice little run, get a little springboard toward next season. But thanks for joining us for Chase for the Championship. That's all I got. Remember, you can watch a new episode every Thursday night at 7 right here. And until next week, get out there and watch some basketball. See you all next Thursday.